So definitely a lot of focus on that. Okay, so before we go into the different presentations, I wanted to just give a little high-level view on examples where we've worked together with members to get to this point. And I think it's important to kind of, know as a association, we're not like a company that's like, oh, let's go and build something and see if people will use it, right? Let's get some investors and get a bunch of money and build a cool thing, right? As a association, we take member dues, we have the board of directors, they kind of direct us on what we do, but we don't do anything without a member saying, this is what we want, right? So it's important for members to kind of step forward and say, hey, we would like you to go this direction. And here's I would say some really good examples where we've had strong leadership within the board and the member piece in general. So Cisco is the first. We actually started integrating with their early gen smart bonding system way back in Connect 1.0, but it was just, hey, send us a JSON message and create a case in our system. Again, it's just simple interface, but we learned a lot there, air handling, all the little things that go along with that. But the big change, which Cisco's going to kind of take you through, is when we moved to Connect 2.0 and they moved to their next gen smart bonding solution. So a lot of learning and in code development and collaboration on that side. So that's a Cisco story. Then the middle one is really talking about the Salesforce story. So when we first started out with Salesforce, and again, I'm not going to go through the details. I'm going to let John kind of share his view of things, but we really, again, we needed the input of members on what should we create, how should it work, right? And of course, Red Hat had some experience with integrating to Microsoft, so they knew kind of what worked, what didn't, what they wanted to change. IBM certainly was doing a lot of integrations with different folks, so we had that baseline knowledge of do this, don't do that. So that was really helpful in getting off the ground, helping us make some design decisions, and then really just iterating through the solution. So that's the story on the Salesforce connector, and I added Nutanix on the end there because this I think just shows, and again they're going to present later in the day as well. But of course, we built the connector with Red Hat and IBM. They went into production. Then we're pulling other members in, and Nutanix did a very deep evaluation of it and said, hey, these things are perfect, these things are missing. So we're working on some missing things. And of course, the benefit now is everybody's gonna benefit from our working with Nutanix now to automate inbound flows or whatever the thing that they asked for. So the package and the solution just gets better and better and better. The more members we get on, the more features and functionality that we co-develop with members. So I think that approach to the connectors is something we can leverage quite strongly. And then I added Microsoft on there. I know you guys aren't live yet, but you definitely pushed us hard in the security space. So that was kind of the first board member that said, hey, we can't use this thing without all these ISO certs. And that was way back in 1.0. So that was a big journey for us. Obviously, the working with the teams on the Dynamics connector piece, proof of concept. And then we are part of the Microsoft Developer Support, which I would say is quite nice because that pushed us into GitHub. So we got some free licensing. We did all of our stuff in GitHub now. And then we got some Azure credits and stuff as well. So that's been helpful. And then the other thing that Microsoft has really been pushing hard is the support aspect of it. I talked to our guy that's kind of building the system. He goes, kind of similar thing maybe that you were thinking is, we got developers, which he said that's gas, and then you have operations, which is brake. So he goes, you got a lot of gas and you need to get some brake here as well. So that's really getting us to kind of look at, okay, what's the hardening of the systems with support aspect, what happens this, that, and the other. So I think that piece is really helping us solidify the solution.
All right, so I guess this is the part where we need to introduce ourselves. So, hi everyone, I hope you can hear us without any issues. My name is Witold. I work as a manager for Cisco Smart Bonding team. And today also with me, I have Jessica. She is technical project manager that works with me on smart bonding solutions. And with that, Paul, do you want to go through the first couple of slides or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, so
so.
we're just gonna go
Alrighty.
through slide 1 and 2, and then it's all you. So this is just reinforcing. And again, I talked about this entering this kind of section of the meeting that we've worked very closely with certain members, and Cisco, I'd put them right at the top. And again, we worked very closely with them in Connect 1.0, just creating cases in their system. I would say certainly there was limitations and known issues with that, and that carried over then into, hey, when we do Connect 2.0, these are the things that we need to solve. Connect 2.0, that's where we're at right now. That's really where we'll be spending the time on what we've done with Cisco on that side. But we know, again, we'll exit this phase where there's still some things that aren't perfect, and that will then carry into Connect 3.0. So the idea is, you know, the solution's never done. We want to work very closely with members when we have issues, so that we can kind of stay on top of it versus, finding ourselves with things that aren't working. So the high level solution from the TSANet side, before I hand off, is that whenever we do a custom integration, and this is something that we've learned also working with Cisco and working with our API and such, that it's very difficult to say um, everything's going to be exactly the same. We always have to adapt to, for example, in this case, what Cisco's API wanted. So we set up a custom microservice to adapt to that and allow us not to have to continually iterate and make our main API so incredibly complicated. So it keeps it a little easier for us to say, hey, let's stand this thing up. It's to work with Cisco, and if we need to modify the Cisco thing, we don't have to modify everything else, and things start breaking on connectors and that type of thing. So it is full featured from an inbound standpoint. So creating cases, updating notes, attachments, all of that type of stuff. And then we'll talk about outbound. So outbound is kind of the area that we're spending some time on now. Uh, and you'll kind of see maybe some of the challenges highlighted in there and what we're working on next. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our Cisco team.
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, as you probably all noticed, smart bonding was a big black box on the previous slide. So hopefully after this call, you will understand slightly more about what and how we are doing. But before we'll go to that, let me explain a bit about what smart bonding is and how do we work and who we are. So, and I'll try to, kind of elaborate on some details here. So, smart bonding basically is the name both for the technical solution and for the process of enabling automation and API-based integration between TSANet and the Cisco tax system. We are using Salesforce for that. So our goal was to make sure that we are able to integrate and exchange all the data, all the values, and collaborate between Cisco and TSANet, and to make sure that it works fast, right? So the goal there was to fully automate that instead of aiming for any manual solutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, alrighty. So here we are. So this is similar slide to what you could see from Paul. This one, however, kind of describes how smart bonding works, right? So what we are aiming for is the solution and the integration that will allow us to exchange the data between Cisco and TSANet and all of the members that are working with TSANet. So specifically for our connection with TSANet, we went for REST APIs and we are creating push-push infrastructure, which basically means that all of the updates are sent from TSANet to Cisco and from Cisco to TSANet instantly. There is no pooling mechanism. All of the updates are done as quickly as the ticket is created or updated. So the benefits of that are already mentioned by Paul, that there is no more swivel share, there is no more copy pasting information, calling, sending emails, logging into some weird user interface and creating everything, for example, manually by just tracking and copy pasting data from one ticket to another. And obviously it simplifies the communication between everyone who is involved in that process. But the main goal here is to save the time and save the money, obviously, to save the time by automation and by integration that works without any need to interact with people using it. Yep, next one, please. All right, so the good news from our end that smart bonding is approved integration service at Cisco. We are working very closely with our internal IT teams. They are helping us with develop our solution. So smart bonding connections, because that's how we call them here, are approved at Cisco. We are using and creating multiple connections with our customers, with our partners, and as well with teams like TSANet. Next, please. All right, so a bit about the workflow, and this is the workflow from the team perspective. I'm not going to jump into all of the details here, but what I wanted to present is that at Cisco, Smart Bonding team is taking care of all of the steps that are required to implement the connection, right? So to build the integration, we have day zero team that goes to TSANet or our customers and partners and briefly explain to them what smart bonding is, how it works, what are the benefits, what are the requirements, etc. They are also gathering the very initial feedback, maybe even asking some very high-level technical questions. And then we go to day one implementation team, and Jessica here on the call is also part of that team. And they are really wearing multiple hats there. They are doing initial requirements gathering. They are trying to understand what is the workflow, what are the processes, and how to customize it, how to align sometimes different workflows and different processes to make sure that they are mapped within our tool. Then they are working on the technical solution. So basically they are developers. They are implementing and testing solution with TSANet, doing unit testing, doing end-to-end testing, trying to understand whether the solution works as expected, both from technical and from business perspective. And then they are deploying it into the production, which basically means the go live, where we are making sure that everything works as expected. So the biggest advantage here is that basically there is a dedicated resource assigned to the project. You don't need to jump between multiple teams. You don't need to engage with multiple people. And the resource, in that case, Jessica, is basically our point of contact, and she's taking care of all of the day one steps. And then we have day two, which I could summarize basically by saying it's a support team, but in reality, it's way more. They are doing reactive support, but they are also working on proactive support. They are monitoring our platform and tools connected with our platform. So both from internal perspective, meaning all of the integrations that we have on our end, but also from external perspective, which means that we are able to track and monitor the connection between Cisco and TSANet. And if there is any issue with exchanging the messages, we are getting notified about it, and we are quickly escalating it to TSANet and basically any other member, any other contact that is connected with that. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. All right, so this is just a very super short highlight about our day one operations. So basically, when we are starting the projects, we are getting those initial details that I was mentioning previously. Then we are doing two types of requirements gathering. First one is technical, so that means how to connect our APIs. What are the authentication types? What protocols we'll use? What methods, etc. But we are also trying to understand business requirements. What are the processes? What are the customizations needed? How it will work together? Do we have all the values? Do we have all the information that we need to exchange? When we know all of that, we are going to implementation process, which is basically software development. And the result of it is usually the specification document that we are sharing not only internally, but also with TSANet. Then we are going through testing, and then we are going live into the production environment. Alrighty, so next slide. Okay, so here, before it will get a bit confusing, I'll talk about the inbound from Cisco perspective, right? So when a member starts the information exchange and it goes to Cisco Smart Bonding. So basically, we can create ticket directly from TSANet Connect to TAG. As I mentioned, we are using REST and JSON, and we are pushing all of the updates instantly between TSANet and Cisco. So all of those are done in real time. I mean, almost real time. I'm pretty sure there is like a second or two of delays because that's how API works, but it's almost instant, right? As much as technicalities allows us to be instant. We are also sharing attachments, which is basically file exchange. And I'll talk more about it in a couple of slides. We also implement error handling as part of the connections. So you'll receive a very clear details on how our tickets, our messages could trigger any error messages, and how we'll properly handle those errors. And last but not least, we are also implementing and enabling some bypassing, especially for entitlement. This is kind of custom solution, so I will not go into all of the details here, but this is also possible. All right, so let's move to the next step. And this is the challenging one, right? So the outbound solution, as Paul was mentioning, we are still pretty early in the solution. We are basically trying to explore and address all of the challenges that we had with the solution that we are trying to build. The long-term fix for that is to aim into full standardization of the payloads and all of the messages that we are sending. And I'll be honest, it is not that easy. And the reason for that is pretty simple, right? There are multiple members, multiple connections to handle. When on Cisco end, we are aiming for industry standard, and as the name says, the part of that standard is standardization of the messages that we are exchanging. So the features that we will still need to implement is the ticket creation, and I would say that this is where standardization is the biggest issue, to make sure that we can create tickets not only from TSANet and its members, but also from Cisco to TSANet. And there is plenty of other additional features and small tweaks and improvements that we are already implementing or that we are working on. On the outbound, on the inbound, those are already implemented. But again, inbound was, I'm pretty sure that for everyone, inbound was the easiest part of the solution. So I would say, and highlight this again, that the payload standardization, the message standard is the biggest challenge here. And with that, let's move to the next slide. All right, so file transfer, right? This is the one that I wanted to very, very briefly explain here. So all different types of attachments are supported through our API. You can send file to us. Usually it is sent in form of encoding base64, which is just a technical thing. So to simplify that a bit, you can send any file through smart bonding to Cisco. Now, what you will receive from Cisco is not a file. Our attachments are working slightly differently. What you will get from Cisco is web address, URL, that will be sent through the notes, through the comments. And then if the end users will click on that URL, they will be able to access the file through the link, right? So this is the big difference between inbound and outbound files. You can send any file to us, but if we'll send file to you, you'll have to go to the link and download the file. So the reason for that is that we want to make sure that the users that are downloading or even viewing the file are authorized to do it, and that they are able to pass all of our security checks and everything, right? So that means that those users who will get the link we as Cisco will be sure that those users are authorized to see those attachments. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So this is the time where I kind of, on the very high level, try to explain to all of you how that works. And I guess if you have any questions, this is the best moment to ask them.
Maybe one point of clarification.
Sure.
That I'll kind of highlight. You talked about the error handling and all that type of stuff on the inbound side. I will say that that's an area where we did work very closely with Cisco. So all of that error messaging is mapped then back into notes and sent back to the user. So if it's like, hey, this is an unknown end user, we give them clear instructions on what they should do, register a customer here, or, look for serial number there. Whatever is wrong, it's kind of translated into more of a human action that needs to take place. And I think that's helped us. For example, we've been starting to do the Nutanix inbound automation, and we're saying, hey, let's leverage some of the stuff that we learned from Cisco, that you need to do proper error handling. You can't just send error underscore 3 letters underscore something that the end users like have absolutely no idea what this system error is. It's got to be something that a human could take an action on. So
yeah, absolutely. And this is something that we also learned that implementing that should be a standard solution for us. And as you said, not everybody would love to see some random letters and numbers all of the sudden appearing in the messages. So yeah, the human readable messages and errors are super important, because basically they encourage and they help the users to also try to fix issues on their end. So again, at the beginning of the presentation, we mentioned that we are aiming for something that doesn't need manual interaction from anybody else. That also includes IT teams. You don't need to open the ticket with them to ask what Cisco meant by this error message. You can see it right away on your screen. Yeah.
The error message